So why are we so bullish on Hovr or Horizon aircraft? Well, you're going to want to stick around because I've brought my two guys, Dylan Rogers and Mark Berry, with me to deep dive into Horizon. Guys, we have such a good relationship with Brandon Robinson, the CEO of Hovr, and he will be coming on for an interview. So jump straight into the comments now and let me know exactly what questions you want asked directly from the CEO himself. Also, smash that like button because for every one like, it shares us out to 10 more people. That's 10 more people that will hear about a Horizon aircraft. But without further ado, let's jump straight into the video. Have a deep dive into Hovr. Let's get all on the same page before we speak to Brandon. Then let's also bang some questions together. Let's, as a community, work out what we want to hear from Brandon. But we know the likes of the Cavorite X7. Anyone that hasn't heard much about Horizon, that is their aircraft. It carries, if I remember, 6 passengers and a pilot. Flies around 450 kilometers an hour with a max range of 800 kilometers in it. Oh, look, passengers there, 6 and the pilot. And then this is one of Mark's favorite parts of Horizon. They have a pendant wing design which enables safe, more durable performance in the most forbidden conditions. Do you want to speak a little bit about the design of the aircraft, Mark?
Yeah, as I've stated before, the best part about, or one of the best parts about Hover's design is that it is a fully the systems are separated. So the hover capability is electric, and is purely electric with the lift fans. But then when they convert to wingborne flight, they'll be doing that on their new model under, from what I understand, will be a turboprop PT6. And having those segregated power systems offers a significant amount of, or it adds a lot more factors of safety. Um, where if you just have a purely electrical system and they're all linked up, and you have failures, um, you can run into issues of what's known in the aerospace industry as single point of failure, and you want to always eliminate your single points of failure. So, I mean, similarly to what Joby and ACHR can do, if they had a failure in their hover system, they could still, under wingborne flight, go and land at an airport. Clearly, both of them have demonstrated, especially Archer's been demonstrating their CTOL capability, which is just taking off and landing. But you want to, but specifically with Hover and their design that they have, not only is it a very clean aerodynamic design once it gets into wingborne flight, which is going to only increase their efficiencies, and their distances that they can fly. Um, it also, them from the very start coming out and saying we are going to develop a HEVTOL, a hybrid electric VTOL, compared to, oh, we're going to be an eVTOL. And then you're seeing, but we're already seeing these aircraft, both Joby and Archer, when they start getting into use cases with the military, it's immediately they're transitioning to a hybrid powertrain. So
Why is
uh,
that so beneficial for the military? Why do they always seem to want the hybrids?
I think it's just a function of, um, the power density that you're going to get in fuel compared to electric. The technology is not there, and you have that infrastructure. As Brandon said on the previous call, you don't need any infrastructure whatsoever to go and land a hover aircraft anywhere, because you're carrying your infrastructure with you. You're carrying the fuel with you. The aircraft can recharge its batteries while it's in flight. So you can go and land somewhere and then take off again. And I would expect that they could be running their generators or running their um, engine, their gas-driven engine or their turbine engine while the airplane is on the ground. You could probably still be running it and charging your batteries if you were low, just enough to get up off the ground. But the other thing too is when you go with a configuration like Hover, is you only need those electric batteries for a short period of time. Like it's only going to be like 30 seconds. So you don't need to carry as many with you compared to Joby and Archer. That's all you have is batteries. So you're carrying all of that weight with you at all times. Um, One of the beauties of when you're flying with a gas engine um, is the longer you fly, the more fuel you burn off, and then the less weight you actually weigh. So that allows you to, you know, it changes some of your flight profiles. So when you come in and land at you can extend your range out and then come in and land, and you're going to be a lot less weight than what you were when you took off. When you're an eVTOL, you're always carrying the same weight regardless.
And then, Dylan, I know you're massive in the likes of Archer. The thing that really excited me speaking to Brandon last time is he's not saying he's directly going into competition with the likes of Archer and Joby. They're actually I don't know, have a symbiotic relationship with them where Joby and Archer's model is very intra-city, where they travel between point and point, where Hovr are going more for the city-to-city transportation. They also
Mhm.
are going into the likes of emergency response. And then we have the likes of the military use case. We know that Brandon was a fighter pilot himself, so he knows military inside out. No one can tell me he doesn't have contacts. I know he wouldn't be able to say that himself until there was any sort of press release, but I would be pretty sure he would have contacts knowing he worked in that industry. Dylan, does Hover excite you?
I think something that excites me about Hover in it's not a knock on them at all. It's definitely a pro. One, I enjoy the design. There's something about the wing design that personally I just enjoy. So whether it's to the eye or how eventually the aircraft is going to fly, or capabilities for the aircraft, for that personally I do enjoy. But something, and again, it's not a knock on Hover, but what I enjoy is they're a little bit later to the game. Um, and I think that's okay. I think that the technology that's kind of been trying to be proven out with somebody with the experience that Brandon has at the helm can kind of start to weed out maybe the options of the design and technology and the engineering in which he wants to go down, which may bring him to wanting to start out, like you say, at that just straight hybrid EV model right away and just foregoing that need to have to capture and like to Mark says how the batteries are going to sustain their weight. There's not going to be any drop in weight. So that's something if you're looking to get to market in 3 years before the battery technology reduces and you get to lose weight off the aircraft through your battery. I mean, I think it's a fantastic idea to move forward in that manner as well. And also, I think the regional flights is something. It's if we're talking about an emerging market, that's something that within our air taxi networks with Joby and Archer is something that's not being really discussed. Again, based on the range of the powertrains that are being used at the moment, if it is going to be straight EV, and if it doesn't go to a hybrid version of the powertrain, I guess that's, up in the air to the companies come maybe late 26, 27, maybe to decide technology and their advancements and if they're able to do a longer range flight or maybe get started to do a longer range flight and do something regionally with a different powertrain or maybe have a few different aircrafts that can start to build out that regional capability within their companies as well. Um, and as well as you have Brandon, excuse me, who is coming, I believe, if I'm correct, from the Canadian side. So being the Canadian subsidiary And again, speaking into some of the government programs for backing of the business, funding of his business as well. I think that there's some nets that can catch him well. I'm sorry, some nets that can catch him as well that he was speaking about previously. So yeah, I think it's a fun ride to see more from day one. You know, this would be again going back to minimally 2021 Archer, if not about, you know, a little bit earlier in Tom's career in engineering, and then, you know, taking the ride all the way back to 0809 and, you know, seeing what Joe Ben was talking about and looking to design and following his ride all the way through. So yeah, I think there's excuse me, I'm mincing my words, but there's definitely a few things to be excited over Brandon and Team Hovr. So yeah, a lot of cool things to look forward to with him.
Yeah, and I think, go ahead.
No, you can fire away there.
One thing to talk about, I think that this space, especially from a design perspective, it's accelerating. Of course, when Jobin started in 2009, if you were surfing, there were no waves out, you know, there were no sets to catch. As
Yeah.
where when Archer picked up, there were some waves. Well, now this space has so much visibility. I mean, it's the North Shore of Hawaii at this point, and you're, you know, so and with that said, is I think Brandon, I just listened to an interview Brandon gave earlier this week. It was a fantastic interview. And one thing I wanted to note is I looked at their website just a few months ago, uh, and they had very, very little job openings. Yeah, you look at their careers site, and there was maybe just 3 or 4 job openings. Now there's 15 or 20. And you look at the jobs that they're looking for, you know, flight test engineers, and they're looking for program managers and directors, which means they're ramping up very quickly. And I think once they got past, they proved that they did their conversion and that their scale model works. Um, in listening to Brandon's interview, he said they're going through thousands of resumes, which means engineers in the aerospace industry are excited about what they're doing. They believe in what they're doing. Again, their design is very pragmatic. It's a design that makes sense, and engineers are practical people. So I think they're going to have, even though Joby and Archer have fantastic talent, I think that Hover is going to be able to really pick from the very best that Canada has to offer, in addition to just what, you know, engineering capabilities there are in North America altogether. So they're picking up a lot of talent. They're picking up a lot of speed really quick. So I think Brandon said their full scale model is going to be ready in about 18 months. That's going to be a question we're going to ask them is, okay, what's this schedule look like? When can we start, you know, when will we see this aircraft do its first flight, or when are you going to do power on? Um, it's not going to be of course, a conformed aircraft. It's going to be their first test article that they'll do company testing with. But that said, I think they're going to accelerate a lot faster than what Archer has done. You'll see them move pretty quickly.
What excites me about this whole interview is last time we spoke to Brandon, it was a lot about NASDAQ compliance and how they intend on getting back within compliance. We heard a little bit about his story. This time, I feel like we're going to go in, we're going to try and find out as much information that is not already out there that he can share with us. We, like, looking across, I believe there's 2 ways that we can start really ramping it. Either getting a backer, the likes of a Stellantis or Joby, or Joby, Stellantis or Toyota. Anything along that sort of scale. Look, that's all she wrote. But there's another way, getting the likes of defensive contracts. And looking across at Harvard's website, they have compared the Cavorite X7 with the likes of the Airbus Racer, the Sikorsky X2 Defiant, Leonardo AW609, and the Bell Boeing MV22. Looking at even the likes of cost price of these aircrafts, Cavorite X7 is coming in at 10 million. So yeah, it's about double the price of a S4 or a Midnight, but these are a lot more. I don't know.
Long range, more passengers, more functional, more functions.
Yeah.
However, maybe. Sorry to finish the sentence, but
No,
just
you're
a
fine.
thought. Just a thought.
Yeah, if you look at the space and let's say, in a perfect world, what are the use cases for an eVTOL? And you could probably say, all right, there's in within all of the space, both commercial and military, there's 15 different use cases. Well, Joby currently may hit 7 of those, and Archer may hit 7 or 8 or something, right? Hovr, it's 14 of them.
Question for you, Mark, maybe. Just in general, to best of whatever. So let's say, and just because I would know the financials on Archer, that they're selling the Midnight today at a price tag of $5 million. As we move forward, so as we were talking maybe with the 10 million with Horizon, or just estimated figures, does the mass bring the price down, or is the supply and demand something that can raise the price and just, I don't know, in the aircraft business?
Yeah, so once again, there is for the reason their aircraft's going to be more expensive is because, again, you've got 2 separate powertrains. A brand new PT6 engine is going to cost off the line out of Pratt, Canada, is going to probably be about $1 million, right? The prop's going to be probably $100,000. So, I mean, that's before that's just one subset of your power plant. So it is going to be a more expensive airplane, or a more expensive, I guess you'd call it a craft, compared to Joby, which is, all electric does allow you to be a lot less complex from a powertrain perspective. Now both Joby and Archer with their rotating props and everything, that has its own level of complexity. But in a different scale, because that's something that Joby and Archer can control compared to, again, turbine engines. The world has been developing turbine engines since the late 1940s, and the materials that go into those engines, it's crazy to just get as much efficiency out of them. But that with that efficiency gives you increased use case. I mean, a PT6 puts out an enormous amount of horsepower, depending on which variant you get. So again, I mean, what's the cost of a brand new militarized helicopter? They're probably 15 million bucks. So I think they're still extremely competitive. They'll be very competitive, and to the to Liam's point about well, you've got Joby with Toyota and you've got Archer with Stellantis. I mean, Brandon didn't come straight out and say it in the interview that I listened to on a couple days ago, but he was almost, it seemed like he was almost signaling that, yes, if de Havilland or if Bombardier wanted to team with us, we would be more than happy to. And then that would be, and that's just on the Canadian side. To the same point, a US company could say, hey, we want to team with you as well and do manufacturing in the United States, or do something coordinated. And he said we would be open to that as well. He even said they'd be open to licensing their technology, so their whole wing lift system, if someone else had a novel idea. So I think that again, it's early stages, but if you could have bought Joby back when it was $1 and know what it would be today, the success story or either of Archer and Joby,
sure,
man, I would have I'd loaded up a lot more.
Yeah.
So so it's it's they've got some really good potential.
Then I want to address this comment. Manny says, but will they get American military contracts? This is one thing I really want to bring to Brandon. We have had one of our biggest Hovr bulls recently. I think his name is Anthony. Find out they may have a site in Ohio. Was it? Was it Ohio?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
What was it?
No, we want to
company
find
It was
out.
like it was an old business address, if I'm remembering correctly. Maybe not still registered, but maybe used to be registered. But yeah, I'd have to go back to remember the honest facts.
Yes, we need to find out. Is it possible to get American military contracts? I know if they're based in Canada alone, I believe that they won't be able to. Have you any more insight on that, Mark?
Yeah, I think you need to be a U.S. entity, but that can be something as simple as just registering in the United States and forming up your a location in the U.S. So I know that Bombardier sells militarized aircraft, and they have a facility in Wichita. They bought the Lear, Bombardier bought Learjet, and they use that facility for a lot of their flight testing. But then also, if they do any type of military sales to the U.S., that is all done and is done at that facility then. So, but that would probably be they could easily do that though. They could form a corporation in the United States, very similar to what Rocket Lab has done, and then just have a U.S. office, and everything is done out of the U.S. office.
And then C. Jernigan had a good point there that we do need to highlight for anyone that has just heard about Horizon. Hover can fly through icy weather with the blades protected in flight. And guys, you're going to think, look, when you were the average everyday retail investor like myself and Reece were, this is not something that really, really concerned us until we spoke to the likes of Brandon, until we spoke to the likes of Mark. Mark, do you want to talk a little bit about flying through non-icing?
Yeah, so you want to have the aircraft would have to be, if it's going to fly commercially, it would have to have FICI certification. FICI is short for flight into known icing. And then what you would most likely have is all of your leading edges would either be heated, or they would have boots on them that have air blown into them that expand, that break the ice off. Your propeller would either have to have alcohol slung out onto it, or that also has boots or is heated. Anything that is taking a wing shape that's providing aerodynamic lift for either lift or thrust needs to be a heated surface or some sort of an ice breaking surface. Windshield has to be heated so that the pilot can see through it and stuff. But aircraft have been FICI certified for the last, since we've been flying in bad weather. It's just a design aspect it's just a system that you design into the overall package, and you certify it, and off you go. If they do have that capability, that does put them above the rest with any other eVTOL company out there for militarization as well. I mean, the U.S. and the world militaries operate in really cold conditions. We were in Afghanistan for 20 years, and the United States was operating helicopters at really high mountainous terrain and whatnot. And I don't know if they had limitations. I don't know if like a Black Hawk has limitations and ice or not, because I'm not certain if it has ice protection capabilities. But if they can design that into their overall package, it's just going to be, once again, that's going to be number 12 of the use case. It's going to be like, yes, we have that capability. So
Then we're getting a few of the Joby and ACHR Bulls coming into the comments. Another thing I want to discuss about Horizon, looking at the load capacity, when we compare it to the likes of Midnight or the S4, they can carry around 450 kilos. The Cavorite X7 can carry 680 kilos, but it can't only carry, 25% more of a payload. It can also travel a lot further. Like looking at the range wise, it's 800 kilometers compared to ACHR and Joby. We're sort of looking around 250 kilometers. But look, again, we're talking about different use cases. As Mark said, Cavorite X7 can be used in all different scenarios. If they want it to travel intracity, it can. Where if you compare that to the likes of the S4 or the Midnight, unless you're using the likes of your hybrid models, you won't be able to do that city to look over in the likes of Ireland. You could do city to city travel no problem because you'd be able to fly the length of the country in one of them. But talking about the likes of the US, an 800-kilometer range is a lot more sufficient. Then Mixie Phil says Joby's first mover advantage is a moot point. No mass production for at least a couple of years. Hovr needs to address this in the design phase now. I think Joby's first mover advantage is still a pretty significant point for Joby. I don't want to get pulled into this comparing the likes of Hovr to Joby and ACHR too much. We're talking about it's like comparing, I don't know, Toyota to Tesla sort of thing, where they're just doing two different things. It is quite similar, but at the same time, they're doing two different things. So I don't want to tear one down to bring one up either.
Mhm.
Then we have, I can see K Dean, you are a massive Horizon bull. I don't want to read out all them comments just because I feel like we've covered most of it. But there was a good one I found. I'll get back to it there. VSCNC says range and the logistics systems around fuel. Kadeen does say it has more weight. What happens when batteries catch fire?
Mark kind of said that. He said that's kind of a just a big boom.
Well, when your batteries catch fire, they have to be designed in a containment system. So pretty much the battery can completely burn off, but it's contained, and you can get down and safely land on the ground. Those are design features that are being currently designed into the Joby, currently being designed into the ACHR aircraft. Any of these aircraft that are going to have these lithium-ion batteries have containment, so that if one of them burns off, the fire's contained and vented out. I mean, you're pretty much going to have a stove. Think of the batteries inside of a.
Have we lost Mark there?
Well, I was gonna say too, it's actually cool, if you see inside the factories the kind of redundancy checkovers that they have in the battery cells. So again, I would hope nothing ever went wrong with the battery cell, but it's just cool to kind of see the redundancy test, the lasers, everything kind of checking before they they do hit that cell box. So but Mark, yeah, go for it if you want to jump back in.
Yeah, sorry about that. My phone rang.
No.
I mean, imagine these batteries are basically like you got your stove, you got these old stoves that are sitting inside of a living room. Like that's how these batteries are. These batteries can basically cook, and if they caught fire, they would just cook inside of its containment. And obviously, you're going to go down and land. You're not going to hand your passengers marshmallows and make s'mores.
Yeah.
It's an event you don't want to have, but it's also a manageable failure to where it's not going to be it's not going to be catastrophic.
Then going across, Michael Anthony says, what does the company trade under? So it's HOVR, my friend. And then jumping down, Mixie Phil says there's an American address. Many says midnight flew over 50 minutes this week. Very good news. It did. And what we might do after all these interviews and that, we will deep dive into the likes of ACHR and Joby. I just don't want to take away from these Hovr guys at the moment because I know they're quite excited about the interview with Brandon. RIP Uruguay says, in my opinion, ACHR by 2028 will be big. I'll be adding to the Olympics after I reach my goal in Hovr.
Nice.
Good idea, my guy. Many says 800 kilometers you want to fly a commercial jet. K. Dean says Hovr is a long term for serious investors. Taking people to airport isn't going to cut checks. Hovr is focused on the end game. No fluff, no smoke. Look, I think there's a world where you can have a symbiotic relationship. I don't think Horizon is the only eVTOL that is going to succeed. I would like to see them all succeed, but look, I can see a world where ACHR, Joby, Horizon all get to eat at the table.
To that, Liam, too, maybe it's a thing for Hovr where, and again, I don't know, in Canada, maybe the logistics on the city to city, or Toronto, I don't know, the bigger airports or national hubs and, that, but it seems like, with the company, maybe it was, the focus was like, we're going to go regional, and that's where we're going to take that focus in our designs first. And then for, anybody on the ACHR Joby side, maybe patient and a little excited maybe what designs can still come out from the companies as the companies continue to emerge within their own industries and maybe even have a second version of the aircraft come out with longer range. So I think it's cool. It's like Hovr's like, no, we kind of have our mission and that's what we're going for, longer range flights, which is cool.
Yeah, I think in a couple of years you're going to see you'll have a single engine turbine jet, not a propeller driven, and thrust reversers, or you'll be able to direct the thrust and this and it won't even be a prop spinning in the back. It'll be a jet engine blowing thrust out the back. So that'll be the next thing. Your own private vertical takeoff jet. That'll be cool.
That's awesome.
Do you know what? When personal eVTOLs come about, I am gonna do a whip round. We're gonna get Mark a eVTOL just so he can fly us around, check it out, see what's happening. Then Phil says, I wasn't aware until yesterday the S4 runs on 3 banks of batteries. The fourth is a backup. I wasn't aware of that. I'm not even fully aware. Does ACHR do something more or less similar? Is a backup something they need to conform with the FAA? Do you know anything about that?
You guys?
No clue.
No. CJ Anakin says Joby ACHR more like Uber, Hovr more military and more long travel uses. When they're all running at full speed. Yeah, the thing is with Horizon, they're not going to have the infrastructure. So we have the likes of ACHR and Joby having to build out vertiports. They have to also be like a Uber where they well, no. Joby and ACHR are a little bit different in that way, where Joby plan on running the actual service themselves with the Uber Elevate or Elevate OS. Where Horizon, they're planning to more or less build the aircraft and then sell them, which I believe, after speaking to Brandon, is a very effective model. Looking at it, you have the likes of Boeing, Airbus, we all know them. You don't see them running flights, because running a aircraft manufacturing business is a lot different than running an airline service. And we know that airline services aren't actually that profitable. I do think that Brandon's taking the right approach to what he's doing. Guys, have you any thoughts on that?
Well,
Yeah,
I
go ahead,
for it,
Kevin.
Mark. No, go, Mark. I'll tell you.
Yeah, I think being just an OEM is I mean, that's the business model that has worked for the last
Mhm.
80 to 90 years of
Don't fix
aircraft
it if it's not broken.
of aircraft development. The fact that you've got a completely new, different design of aircraft, it's and I think, yeah, I think they've got a good model, especially if they license too.
Kadeen then says Hovr does not need to build infrastructure. They will not be operators, just sellers, sell and lease. Mixie Phil says, I don't see this administration sourcing outside of the US. A US equity partnership deal may be needed versus an American address. Many says who's backing them. That's a big, important point. They don't have that heavy hitter backer like ACHR and Joby. However, not if, but when they do,
Well,
I believe.
Yeah, Brandon spoke to the investment company that has backed them on a different podcast that he did, and that narrator of that podcast said that, I mean, it's like a $60 billion fund that has their backing. Now, granted, they've just got a very small piece, and they typically deal in bonds. But that'll be something we're going to ask. I want to ask Brandon about, is more about their financial backing and his confidence in their backing. Again, right now it's tough to say. A lot of times, in this space, you need to first prove your concept before people really start putting the money in. Those people might be there already. And once you've proven your concept, now you get your next tranche of money. It seems like they have the money to go forth with their prototype, their full scale prototype. So they're going to do that. They're going to spend that money, and then if everything works out well from a design and proof of concept perspective, I think they're not going to have issues with funding unless there's just some major downturn in this entire industry, which I also don't see happening. Remember, people are saying this is going to be $1 trillion industry by 3035.
Right.
Right
Hopefully
at that
2035.
point, they could be at full scale production and just getting orders like crazy.
Then, guys, I want you to jump into the comments after the stream and do let us know what questions you want us to ask Brandon. Guys, make sure you bang that subscribe button to be notified when we drop this interview. This is bigger than ever. I honestly want us to be the front running channel to give you all the updates around Horizon Aircraft. But I am quite conscious of time because I know Mark is at work at the moment. He has taken time out of his day, so I do want to thank Mark for that. Guys, it's been so nice to be back. And I want to say my name's Liam. I am one of the Hustle Brothers here. I'm here with Mark Berry, Dylan Rogers. Do join me and Mark on Monday, where we again meet one of our heroes. We're going to find out everything we can for you. We're going to push the boat out a little bit further this time, and we're going to try and find out some really excited information about Horizon. Are we going to run one Sunday? Are we going to
Let's do a short one Sunday so we can give people the opportunity to ask more questions
That would be
about
nice. Good call, Mark.
what they want to hear, and then of course we can just chat more about the industry as well. I mean, there's a lot going on right now, so I think that the more content we can put out, the better, and the more we can just be a community and all chat. So definitely everyone on the chat or everyone on this live stream, get more people involved. Let's get more subscriptions, more likes, and let's and ask as many questions as possible so we can really do some rapid fire at Brandon on Monday.
And that's the thing, if you're investing in Hovr, you want it shared out to more people. Every like shares us out to 10 more people. You think by you doing it, it's not going to affect it too much. But if you think if all 10 of those people do it, already you're at 1,000. But guys, I'm so excited to get this up on the road.